Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Dr. Jane's DC. This is Jane Ruby. I'm coming to you live from Washington, DC, your nation's capital, where things have been really hopping, let me tell you, in the last day or two. I want everybody to be safe, follow the guidelines, but I also don't want you to become sheep. Let's not tolerate this longer than we need to. Let's follow President Trump's lead. But let's be cognizant of the Democrat mayors and governors that are taking advantage of this and that are trying to create extended shutdowns to further damage our economy. I've got a great show tonight. I have master negotiator Ed Brodow and star of stage and screen, a wonderful actress who turned political activist and started a women's conservative group. Her name is Brittany, and we'll be talking to her a little bit later in the show, so stay with me. My DC rant is the pork that President Trump is having to deal with by the Democrats. I don't understand why we need 25 or 35 million for the Kennedy Center. Who needs, the Kennedy Center? It's a very posh, well-endowed place in DC. It's right across the road from me. I can see it. But we don't need that when people are ill and we want to get through this virus thing so we can bring our economy back. But leave it to the Dems to stuff in DACA, illegal alien support, when Americans are suffering in hospitals. So anyway, censorship alert. James Woods was apparently censored. I think he was suspended from Twitter. I don't know the duration of that. You guys can look it up. I want to, let's recheck what's happening on the Periscope, because I want to be able to bring you guys in case there are questions. So hang on. Okay, great to see everybody in the Periscope chat room. Let's see. I wanted to update you before our first guest comes in. I wanted to update you on the presser today. President Trump came on about 6 o'clock, did an update. Reiterated the 15-day, let's take a look and hopefully we can get some of our economy going again. We're apparently in day 9, and Vice President Pence did a great job. He does have a very soothing way about him, and so it's nice to have him on board, and as well as Dr. Deborah Birx, who gave an update, and Dr. Anthony Fauci from the CDC, who I don't trust as far as I can throw him. Sorry. Hi, guys. Let's see, who do we have? We have Jennifer, who's always there, good supporter. Yeah, I'm just going to watch the comments in Periscope because I like to address them, especially when our guests are on. You're just catching my rant. I talked about the presser today, and we've got to get back to work. Okay, I don't care about the Kennedy Center or all the other pork that the Democrats tried to stuff into this bill. My feeling is when you have a presidentially declared national emergency and you're putting together a bill of relief, that you should not have other issues. They can create a bill after they finish this one that has both of their good stuff in it, and they can argue about it. But when you're putting together a bill to relieve the suffering of Americans who are in a situation they didn't create, we're going to lose our small businesses. You shouldn't muck it up. That should be only a single focused topic. I don't know why this is difficult for people to understand. But we have corrupt criminals up here on the Hill that we're dealing with, and it just doesn't seem to get any better. And the rhinos are no better. The Republicans that are establishment creeps are no better. Ooh, April 12th, Patriots Day. There's always a method to President Trump's madness. So we have to be very cognizant of what's going on with these Democrat mayors and governors who are trying to perpetuate this to shut down our economy. So with that said, I'm going to introduce our first guest for tonight, who I'm really excited to have on. We have a lot to talk about with him. He is a former U.S. Marine officer. He's a corporate sales executive. He was a movie actor in Hollywood. He's one of the world's leading negotiation experts, which is a great time to be talking to him. He's a staunch advocate of critical thinking, And he's the CEO of what's called Negotiation Boot Camp, which I think I need. He's the world's top speaker on the art of negotiation. We'll see what President Trump thinks about that. And he's traveled internationally as a keynote speaker at meetings and conventions. We're going to talk to him tonight about his new book called Trump's Turn, Winning the New Civil War. Ed Brodow, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
It's great to see you.
Nice to be seen.
Thank you so much, Ed, for being here tonight. Listen, I want to know, as a master negotiator, what you think about this $2 trillion stimulus bill that appears to have gotten through with all of the Democrat radical leftist pork in it.
Well, I was just hearing about that. Is that true? It got through with all the pork?
Well, all the pork that we heard about in the last day or two that Nancy Pelosi apparently flew back in from California to stuff into the bill, like $35 million for the Kennedy Center, a little gift to Howard University, a DACA program, and part of the Green New Deal. I understand that some of that was negotiated and shaved a little bit, but it all got through in principle.
I'm shocked. I can't believe it. I really can't believe it.
Yeah.
Because that was an absurdity.
It seems so, Ed. And I was wondering, when we have a time of national emergency where the president has declared a state of emergency, that any bills of relief for the American people should be single focused. I just wondered what you think about that.
I totally agree with you. I'm surprised that Trump would approve this. As I said, I haven't seen it yet, so I don't know what happened. But if he approved it the way it is, I would be really shocked.
He said in his presser tonight at about 6:00, and I'm sorry to catch you off guard. We'll have you on again and you can talk about it, once you've read through. But he did say that he shaved off $10 million from the $35 million that they wanted for the Kennedy Center. That was one example. So I think they got a lot of what they wanted, but he negotiated for lesser amounts.
Well,
yeah.
All I can say is that I'm shocked.
Yeah.
Because I think it was a travesty.
Yeah, it's really bad at this time. Ed, let me ask you a question about negotiation in general, but relative to what President Trump is dealing with. How do you negotiate with another side that really does have bad intentions, like the Democrats?
Well, that's a special situation, when you're in a political situation like that. And I think that Trump, in my opinion, is the perfect person to be sitting in the Oval Office right now, because for most of us, you and I would probably go crazy if we were facing what he's faced with, the daily attacks. But he loves it. He absolutely loves it. And it somehow energizes him. And he is able to deal with it rationally. I don't know how he does it, but he does.
Yeah, he does seem to have an energy and a little bit of an appetite for the challenge of it. And I'm hoping that gets us through this really unprecedented and somewhat frightening time for our country and our economy. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, as you probably know, I'm a little bit critical of some of the things that are going on. I just wrote an article. I think that this shelter in place is overkill. And there are a number of medical experts and infectious disease experts who agree with me that the media has blown this thing out of proportion. Mm-hmm. And to demand that we all stay at home, and it's too much. It also raises a very important question as to the constitutionality of all of that. And it scares me because I treasure my individual freedoms. And I don't like it when the government tries to interfere with my personal life, which seems to be the objective of the left, of the Democrats. They, with the Green New Deal, it's all about getting into our lives, telling us what we can do, what we can't do. It is the exact opposite of of the premise on which this country was founded, where we have limited government with checks and balances. So I'm a bit nervous about all of this.
Yeah. Ed, you've written about, your latest book, it talks about, in the title, Winning the New Civil War. This civil war, that is brewing between socialism and New World Order and, the foundation of our country, which is freedom and liberty and all that. Where do you see this going? And is this virus situation with Democrat mayors and governors, extending it and perpetuating the damage, do you think that's going to accelerate a civil war here? And what would that look like?
Well, first of all, the reason I call my book Trump's Turn, Winning the New Civil War, is that we're already in a civil war. And it's not a war of ideologies. And we've been in it for some time now, thanks largely to Obama. I think Obama tried to turn this country in a leftist direction. He wanted to convert us to a socialist country.
Yeah.
And the best thing that happened was that Trump got elected. So Trump has been pushing back. He's been reversing a lot of these regulations, illegal regulations that Obama put into effect. And I have a lot of confidence in him. I know he's going to be reelected. No one, of course, could have predicted this Chinese virus. And you notice I called it a Chinese virus because that's what it is. No one could have predicted it. I think that is going to be a big challenge for Trump, but I don't think it's going to change the outcome of the election. And I think that we need to give him another 4 years to be sure that we really win this civil war, because it's a stark choice. You have, on the one hand, you have conservatives who believe, like I do, in the Constitution and the rule of law. And then you have people like Bernie Sanders, the progressive liberals, who want to turn this country into Venezuela. And we just can't let it happen.
Yeah, and I think this whole virus situation is a bit of a slippery slope because it's given the left a lot to seize on. I mean, I walked to my neighborhood Whole Foods yesterday, and without any notice, I see many people waiting in line being, policed to be 6 feet apart. It was like surreal, and the line went around the block. I mean, yeah. This overkill. This is an opportunity for the left, and they're going to gin up a lot of resentment. There's going to be increased crime, desperate people, millions out of work. I mean, do you think this is going to accelerate a civil war, or like a real civil war on the ground?
Well, it could. I'm concerned about the possibility of riots. I grew up in Brooklyn at a time when there were riots, and I was right in the middle of riots. So it scares me. The possibility of it is very real to me, and it's very frightening. That could happen, but again, that's speculation. We don't know yet. As far as the Democratic Party, as soon as I heard about this, the first time I heard about this Chinese virus, I said to myself, they're gonna blame Trump, and to be expected that they would use this for political purposes. That's why I'm so shocked by what you just told me, that Trump gave in on this ridiculous bill that Pelosi submitted.
Yeah, I mean, I'm only speculating myself, but it may have been because he didn't want the markets to tank again. They went up a little bit on the prospect of the deal going through, and then when the pork got thrown in by Pelosi, maybe he didn't want it to delay another day, so he worked a deal. And we'll have to see what the rest of it is. I don't know all the details yet, and it hasn't passed. But we'll see what it comes out on the other side when he has to sit down and sign it. But Ed, let me ask you a little bit more about your expertise. Negotiating is such a skill, and a lot of us don't have it. I'm not expecting you to give us the boot camp in 5 minutes, but because you do give those kinds of courses, and people can look you up on your website, brodow.com. But what are like a couple of the key elements that people have to develop in themselves to start to be better negotiators?
Well, first of all, we have to learn to be willing to ask for what we want and to be assertive and to challenge everything. People have to learn to challenge. That's what distinguishes negotiators from everybody else. Negotiators challenge everything. So we have to learn to take our time. And perhaps most important, people have to learn to be willing to walk away. So when you're in a negotiation and you have, you know what you need, you have a bottom line. If you can't get that, you have to be willing to say, the hell with this, I'm just going to take off and do something else. So you have to have alternatives. You have to have a plan B. And what I see so many people doing is they don't do that. They feel they have to make the deal or else. That's when you're in trouble. You have to be able to say, if I can't get what I want or what I need, then I'm going to do something else.
I see. Ed, I did see a picture online of President Trump holding your book. Have you met him?
A friend of mine did that. It's amazing how many people ask me, did he really do that?
Yeah.
I hate to admit, phony, but it looks good.
Yeah, it looks really good. I would use it promotionally. I mean, he completely understands that as the promoter he is. Have you read his book, The Art of the Deal?
I read portions of it.
Okay. What'd you think of it?
I basically agree with what he's saying.
Yeah, do you think he's a good negotiator?
Yes, I do. The funny thing is, I never liked him. Before the 2016 election, I never liked the guy. But as soon as I saw the debates, from the first debate on, I said to myself, this is the man. He has really surprised me. And I must say, I have tremendous confidence in him.
Yeah.
And I have confidence in his judgment. Because every time he said something is so-and-so, this is the way it is, and they all said, oh, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Every time, it turns out he was right. So I feel very confident with him.
Yeah, I think he's smarter than people give him credit for or realize. And then a lot of people like you, have either seen him in action or they've met him directly and they've changed their opinion of him. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the attacks on him are what we call ad hominem. They're personal attacks.
Sure.
Trump is a racist. Trump is anti-Semitic. Trump hates women. Trump, it's all a lot of nonsense because they don't have anything serious that they can really attack him on. Because he's done a great job. Look what he's done in 3 years. Truly amazing what the man has done. Up until weeks ago, even the markets were going crazy. As I said, no one could have anticipated this coronavirus, but I predicted the markets will spring back. I don't know how long it's going to take, but they always come back. And the thing that we need to remember is that the Chinese virus is a virus. We've had lots of viruses, but we never panicked. There's no need to panic. This one is pass. It'll go through. Some people are going to get sick. Some people are going to die. But if you look at the last 10 years, there's been like 20 to 60,000 people a year have died in the U.S.
Right.
Each of the last 10 years. So to single this thing out and say, we have to shut down the U.S. economy, that to me is overkill.
It is overkill. And those are very wise words, Ed. We've always had viruses. What we didn't always have was panic. So that's great. So people can find you on your website, brodow.com.
What?
Okay, and they can learn about your conferences and your boot camp.
It's all on there. Yep.
Okay, Ed, that's great. I want to thank you for being on Dr. Jane's DC tonight, and we'll look forward to having you again in the future.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ed. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Hey, guys, we're going to take a short break, and on the other side of the break, we are going to meet up with Morgan Brittany. So stay tuned. Take it easy. everybody. This is Dr. Jane Ruby in Washington, D.C., author of A Sea of New Media. I wanted to tell you a little bit about this book because I was inspired to write it by Andrew Breitbart, who actually vindicated the Tea Party after they were falsely accused of calling 3 African-American congressional leaders the N-word, and nobody could come up with a video or an audio. So he told them weeks later, and on the National Mall, to hold up their cell phones, and thousands of people held up their cell phones, and you could see this beautiful in the night, and he said, there you have a sea of new media to capture the lies. Folks, we can't trust our mainstream media. We cannot trust our press.
When you report fake news, which CNN does a lot, you are the enemy of the people.
When President Trump says they're the enemy of the people, he's not being a dictator. He's telling the truth. They won't tell us the truth. But if we all have our cameras out in public, they can't lie if thousands of us are showing a video of something happening or not happening. So I encourage you to pick up a copy of the book. It's called A Sea of New Media. And if you think you can't make a difference, think about the guy who caught Hillary Clinton on tape. The average citizen caught Hillary Clinton being dragged into the van at the 9/11 memorial in 2016. We never would have known she was ill if it wasn't for that single individual citizen. Pick up a copy of A Sea of New Media on Amazon, and if you happen to see me around DC, I'll be happy to sign the book for you and give you a big hug. I'm on Facebook and Twitter, and I have a show in DC called Dr. Jane's DC, Tuesday and Thursday nights on the Exceptional Conservative Network. Please join me again. I'm Dr. Jane Ruby. See you next time. Hey guys, welcome back to the show. It's Dr. Jane's DC for the second half, and I hope you enjoyed the little bit of a break in our interview with negotiator Ed Brodow. He's got some fascinating insights into what's going on. So as long as our next guest is in the green room, let's bring her in. Let me introduce our next guest to everybody. Hold tight. Ladies and gentlemen, I really have the great pleasure of bringing on a fabulous former and probably current movie star. She's beautiful. She's gorgeous. For those of you who are young enough to remember the 80s and the big hit series Dallas with J.R. Ewing, I want to bring in Morgan Brittany. Morgan, so good to see you tonight. I think we have good audio. Can you hear me? Oh, give me 1 second. I think we have, Okay, I got it figured out. It's live TV. Can you hear me now, Morgan? You can hear me.
Yes.
Okay, well, welcome to the show. Sorry for my little glitch. That was my fault.
No problem.
Morgan, it's great to see you. I think a lot of our audience who are also political activists themselves know of the great Politichicks. But before we get into like your fun background in Hollywood and all that, tell everybody a little bit about Politichicks and how it got started.
Oh my gosh. With Anne Marie Morel, who you know, we got started with Politichicks. She actually started it years ago. And I went on the show. They had a video show. And we just clicked. Everything went great. And we got a new kind of format. And she said, you want to try this? You want to just go out and we'll be Politichicks and we'll start being citizen journalists. And I said, that is a great idea, because at that time, Anne Marie was in, I guess, virgin territory, basically. There were not a whole lot of citizen journalists at the time. And Andrew Breitbart started her out doing that. And so it was an amazing thing. We started going around the country and we started speaking to groups. We started motivating women mostly, getting them, saying, look, you have a voice. If you want things changed in your government and your life, you have to speak up and do it. One thing led to another. We have 2 books. We do speaking engagements all over, and it just exploded. So it was great.
That's amazing. Now you're both in California, is that right?
No, Anne Marie is actually in Texas now. I'm in California and in Atlanta, Georgia. I split my time between the two, but right now I'm in crazy California.
Well, have you always been a conservative, and what's that like in California being a conservative?
Well, you feel kind of like you're on an alien planet when you're out here, and you have many beliefs that are not progressively liberal, especially in Hollywood. I basically grew up in a family that was pretty conservative, actually. But I never really took a position. I wasn't politically active or anything until I moved to New York and I started making a lot of money. And I realized that the party on the right was a lot better with taxes than the party on the left. I was more in line with the values of the Republican Party. I was always a very religious person, very faith-based. And that was one of the things in Hollywood that I've always battled with, because they don't want to hear anything about religion. They don't want to hear anything about your faith. The more you can keep it quiet, the better. And I just wasn't like that. I was more of a person that more mindfulness and I'm not afraid to show it. But at being out here, especially being in Hollywood, you have to stay in the closet. You cannot let your feelings be known at all that you're conservative, because you will be blacklisted. There is no question.
Yeah. What's your take on what's happening in our country right now?
You know, 3 weeks ago, if you had told me this was going to happen, I never would have believed it. Although Anne Marie and I got a heads up, we really did. We did an event in Dallas, Texas, about, I guess it was sometime in February, and we went to listen to Frank Gaffney one morning, and he had a whole panel discussion about China. And there was a Chinese national guy who had literally, I mean, he just opened everything up about how dangerous China was. And he was talking about the coronavirus. He was talking about it and saying, this is a dangerous thing. This is going to be something that, you know, you're going to have to deal with. But we didn't take it, I guess, as we should have. But boy, he was right on the money, talking about our prescription drugs being made and handled by China. We don't even do our own prescription drugs anymore. About how they're taking over all of our, intellectual property. I mean, it was just amazing. So the world as it is today, I never would have thought I would be sitting here in quarantine in California, not able to leave my house, and having drones fly overhead. And if they see groups of people, of more than 10 people, a voice comes out of the sky telling
what?
Yes. I am.
Oh my gosh.
In certain cities in California where the police have drones up above, and if they see people, they tell you to disperse. I mean, is this not Orwellian to you?
Very, very. Wow, that's the first I've heard of that. Are you able to use your phone and video these drones with their voice?
I wish I'd have had it with me yesterday. I had to go out yesterday, but it was a police helicopter that was circling over an area that's a little bit north of me, and they were literally looking for people. I mean, it's so frightening to me that our freedoms are being overnight. They're being
overnight.
And people are not, I don't think they're realizing the gravity of this situation.
Yeah, I agree with you, because I think that they're just caught up in, it kind of comes to the side like a virus, and it's for your own good. And it's actually the perfect formula to steal people's freedoms and liberties and take what's happening now and extend it into a state of permanent police state, which is my biggest fear. But boy, that's incredible. I've not heard about the drones, but why not? I mean, you can't have enough police, on the ground.
Yeah, that's very true. And also, they closed the gun shops out here now. So
we're starting to see news about that in California. Wow.
Very scary.
Wow. And I'm trained in firearms. I train at the NRA with a women's gun group. I don't like to talk about specifically what I do or what I own, because we have looming over our heads the possibility of red flag laws and these Democrat governors and mayors across the country, and we're really saturated here in Virginia near DC. We're just a moment away from them using this to take those rights away. What are we going to do about this?
It's extremely frightening. I mean, especially living out in California. California, New York, Illinois, the states that are really on lockdown, if you think about it, they're really Democratic. They're Democrat run, more so than some of the other states that, they're not locking everybody down. But from what I'm seeing happen, just the little news blurbs that I see from Gavin Newsom, our governor, when he says we may have to institute martial law at some point if people don't behave. Basically, if you don't comply with what they want you to do, then it's martial law. And with martial law, all bets are off at that point. So they can come and do basically whatever they want to do. And this is very
and our show also, in addition to streaming on the platform, the Exceptional Conservative Network, we also stream live on Periscope and Twitter. And there's a chat room that I'm looking at as you and I are talking. And one of the reviewers or viewers tonight said, it's interesting. They're actually releasing criminals. If you pay attention to the news, in different pockets of the country, they're releasing criminals, and that's really kind of a formula. And they're not making arrests. So I think they're creating a situation where we might get into chaos, and then that legitimizes their ability to, call for martial law.
Yeah, and it is. California is one of those states where they're releasing prisoners at a rapid rate. And what I'm afraid of is that, you have some kind of shortages. For instance, when this first started, people were running to the Costco's and the big box stores, and they were just piling everything they could into shopping carts, trying to.
Right.
I mean, it was really frightening. I mean, very, very scary situation. And if you have shortages, if, let's say, our supply lines, people get sick with coronavirus and the truckers can't truck across country, or you can't get food in your grocery stores, or whatever may happen, people are going to start, they're going to take to the streets. You're going to have a lot of criminals out there that are going to start stealing. I mean, basically, our law here, which they passed, is that a criminal or a person who's a criminal can go into a store and steal up to $1,000 worth of merchandise, and the police can't be called. So basically, you could steal $1,000 worth of merchandise every single day and get away with it because the police aren't going to go after you. So this is what's happening out here. And it's extremely dangerous. And where we are, I mean, I talk to a lot of people, and they're very afraid of, they don't want to be unarmed in their own home because what protection do you have? So it's kind of dicey in California right now.
Yeah.
People, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of liberals out here that they don't care, or they don't seem to care. But there's a lot of us that do. And I don't know where it's going to go. I mean, if this thing gets progressively worse, which I don't think it will. I think that it's going to run its course because, in my opinion, I don't think it was that big a deal. I think the media is overblown. I think a lot of it, but that's just me. I know that people are dying. If you look at the numbers and the amount of people die of flu every year, it doesn't seem worth shutting down our entire country and destroying our economy. It just doesn't.
Yeah, and my previous guest tonight, he's a master negotiator, former Marine named Ed Brodow. At the close of the interview, he said something really interesting. He said, Jane, we've always had viruses, but what we haven't always had is this level of panic. And that's what the media has fed into. I like your optimism, but are you saying that because you're wishful thinking, or because you just think it's just too much to go into the dark areas that you and I just speculated on?
I really do have optimism. I think this too will run its course. I really do. And I think that there are a lot of numbers. Like today, for instance, they made this big deal yesterday about a 17-year-old boy who died of the coronavirus, and he was one of the youngest people. Well, news just came out. No, actually, he died of septic shock. So we had to take him off the list. Now, this, I believe, that a lot of numbers, I think a lot of people that are dying of pneumonia or dying of some other problem along with a flu virus, I think that's all getting put into those numbers. Because a lot of people recover. They don't give you the recovery numbers. They don't. They just give you the most horrible numbers they can find. And believe me, I have lived in the media since I was 5 years old. I know what they do. I know how they manipulate, because they manipulate actors and create images for actors that they want to create. I mean, it is unbelievable what they can do and how they can brainwash people.
Yeah, it sure is. And the ease with which they're able to accomplish it is stunning. I've talked to a lot of people about that lately, that how mindlessly people do go along with it. Now, hopefully, and to your optimism, hopefully they're going to start, raising the pressure, and then these governors and mayors are going to back off because they can't substantiate it with the numbers anymore.
Well, I think the American people are awake to what the media is now, and I think Donald Trump has done a very good job of, shaming the media and saying you liars, and it's resonating with the American people because they see it for themselves. They see the false information that's out there. They know, and a lot of people I know talk about false flags, and they're completely, critical and cynical about what they read and what they hear, and they're very skeptical about anybody telling them the truth. It's a very sad situation when you can't even trust. You can't trust anyone to tell you the truth. And wait, what is it? 90% of the media is liberal on the other side. I mean, our voice, we have to literally get out every day, all of us, and we have to speak the truth.
Yeah, I think you're right about people being woke to this because, I see it in social media. And as you were talking about that, there were lots of comments on the live line, the live, chat roll, saying, that this has been politicized, that, the Dems are overreacting, the media's hyped it. So I do think people see it. I do, for the sake of our country, hope that it doesn't last, terribly much longer, because we're going to lose a lot of the middle class and lose a lot of small businesses. So I don't know what's happening out in California, but
yeah, it's bad out here. I feel terrible for the small business owners out there. I mean, if you think about it, it's just it's a chain reaction. You have a restaurant. You have the workers, you have the cooks, you have all those people. But then again, you have the suppliers that supply the food to the restaurants that are not able to do that. And, we have a lot of agriculture out here in California, and you've got strawberries and fruits and vegetables laying in the fields because there's no restaurants to send them to. I mean, people have to understand this is an enormous problem. And we need to fix it now. And the thing that makes me so angry today is Congress and what is going on with the Democrats not stepping up and doing the right thing. They're trying to put all of these their liberal agenda. Climate change, what does that have to do with the coronavirus? What does that have to do with helping the American people? This is ridiculous. Or giving money to a performing arts center. What are you doing? What is wrong with these people? It is so frustrating to sit on my side over here, and I'm sure it is for you as well, that you just want to tear your hair out and say, are you people insane? Do you not understand what's going on? I mean, any opportunity. Do you remember, who was it? Rahm Emanuel, who said, never let a crisis go to waste? Oh, they're right on top of that today, aren't they?
They're really good at that. Yep, they sure are. They sure, and it's become like an elite society. They prance around restaurants in DC, and they just expect, the entitlement is off the charts. The whole thing about serving the American people has gone out the window. But we're going to wrap up in a moment or two, and I've just been so much fun having you on tonight and meeting you. And I'm actually very honored to be one of the newest Politichicks. Anne Marie brought me into the fold. We made the announcement last week on the Exceptional Conservative show, Ken McClinton show. I'm going to be making some writing contributions. But for our audience's sake, will Politichicks be ramping up, around this whole issue and what the Dems are trying to get away with? What other kinds of things will you guys be doing?
That we will be doing that. We will be writing articles and getting our contributors like you to write articles and get people talking about it. We also, once this is over, once the coronavirus runs its course, which it will do,
right,
we are going to try and do what we can to keep the Senate, to win back the House, and get people motivated to go out to vote. It's very, very important. We have got to win all three of the houses back. I mean, we've got to win all three back, because we cannot allow this. Had we won the House in the last election, we wouldn't be sitting where we are today. And people have to understand how important it is.
Mm-hmm.
And believe me, you guys, I'm telling you right now, Joe Biden he's not going to make, they're going to have to replace this man at some point, because I don't think he's going to make it all the way to the election. I really don't. And don't be surprised if they don't pull some rabbit out of their hat, like, bringing in Michelle Obama or someone like that. Don't be surprised. Don't be blindsided, because believe me, they're thinking about it. They're thinking about Donald Trump.
Or they'll leave Joe in and they'll bring in Michelle Obama or Cuomo as the vice president. Let Joe go meet his maker naturally, and then you've got your real new president. And you make a really good point. We've got to get all three of those branches, or they're going to take us down this road for another 4 years, and it's not going to look pretty at all.
No,
so Morgan, people can find you and Anne Marie and all the great work on Politichicks.com.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Absolutely. And I'm on Twitter, Morgan Brittany 4, and you can talk to me on Twitter as well.
Awesome. I hope everybody goes there and sees you. Well, thank you so much for the honor of being with us tonight, and I hope you'll come back.
Thank you. I would love to come back, and this too shall pass.
Thank you. Thanks for the optimism. Stay safe and well. Bye, Morgan.
Bye.
Woo, well, guys, what a show. Wow. It's just, it's unbelievable. I think, what everyone is seeing and what's happening. And I think we're all coming to a collective mind on this. And we're not going to let it happen. We're going to push this thing forward. We're going to get through this virus, and we're going to get our country back. There's a lot at stake. We all need to unite. I was shown some foolish stuff today. Laura Loomer sent me a copy of someone who was very well known in the MAGA movement, name will go unnamed, who tweeted today that he was going to completely abandon everything about Trump because he signed a modified version of that pork bill, and then he was going to vote Democrat for the rest of his life. Well, anybody who does that, I don't believe they were ever really on the right or a supporter of President Trump anyway, but that's beside the point. So people are going a little crazy. Next week, I'm going to have someone who's a local D.C. activist, Suzanne Monk. For those of you who know her in the D.C. DMV area, she is doing something very positive, starting a new organization, and we're going to talk to her about it. It's called Reopen America, okay, Reopen the USA, and she's going to have all kinds of information on how you can help and how you can be a part of that. Let's see, do we have time? I got to show you something that's really, when Morgan Brittany actually gave me a nice little segue to Joe Biden. Joe Biden just did a couple of interviews with Jake Tapper and Nicole Wallace of CNN and MSNBC, MSLSD, whatever. This is how sick this man is and how they prop him up. Watch this.
Have you been tested for the coronavirus?
No, I have not been tested for the coronavirus. I've had, thank God, no symptoms that I'm aware of. Doesn't mean that that can't happen.
Up for the next round of primaries, including...
I've not talked to any individual. Excuse me.
You know, you're supposed to cough into your elbow. I don't know, sir. I learned that actually covering your White House.
Actually, that's true, but fortunately I'm alone in my home, but that's okay.
Vice President Biden, thank you so much for your time. Please stay healthy.
For keeping businesses shut.
We have to take care of the cure. That will make the problem worse no matter what.
And what is it like to be a candidate in the time of social distancing?
Well, I'm doing fine, thank you. And I think we've been
Public, but first off, in this crisis,
I'd like
spoke earlier. He's talking.
And I tell you what, I'm so darn proud. And those poor people who have lost, anyway, it's just, my heart goes out to them.
No. Listen, we're
Really? Wow. And they're propping him up and they're hiding him. They let him out every once in a while into the mainstream media where they know he'll be propped and supported. Well, you guys know the comments I've made on social media. This guy's got serious problems. He should be home enjoying his grandchildren for as long as he can remember that they're his grandchildren. It's really sad. Well, anyway, guys, we'll see you next Monday night. Stay tuned. Stay on the network. TheExceptionalConservativeShow.com is the website where you'll find our shows live. And next, coming up at 9 p.m. is my friend, my mentor, and the exceptional one himself, Ken McClinton. Stay tuned, and we'll see you soon. Saying goodnight from the swamp. Take care, everybody.